In 2019, globally we produced about 59 gigatons of carbon dioxide. Again, if we stay at that level, if we continue business as usual, before the end of the century we're going to have massive impacts because of the climate instability and the warming of the planet. In order to stay within the goals of the Paris Agreement, we would have to decrease globally our emissions by 25 gigatons just in the next decade. So it's very urgent that we take action right away. And in Africa, some of the countries globally that are warming the fastest, 20 of them are here in Africa. So Africa will be hit very hard with this. There's projections that of major decreases in rainfall, for example. So, there's hundreds of millions of people who rely on rainfall for their food. So, without sticking to the goals of the Paris Agreement, we'll see massive food destabilization. We'll see increases in poverty. The Africa Development Bank estimated that GDP across Africa could decrease by 50 to 80% just by 2050 if the world doesn't really take action. Africa has really shown leadership in adopting strategies for climate action that are consistent with and help provide benefits for social economic development. And this is really important. Almost all countries in Africa have developed or are developing their adaptation plans so that they're preparing on how they're going to adapt and build resilience to climate change. And about 90% have developed their NDCs, or their nationally determined contributions, which is their commitments under the Paris Agreement for the actions they'll take for mitigating climate change. What's really remarkable in Africa is that the two of the sectors that are very prominent in those plans are two of the really important sectors in Africa, which is clean energy and agriculture. And we know in particular agriculture contributes about 15% of global emissions. So you can't stop the climate crisis or address the biodiversity loss either unless you're able to really transform our food systems. So there's a lot of great examples in Africa where young people are embracing this understanding that innovation is the key to their future. They're coming up with really resourceful approaches that are based in ecosystem-friendly kinds of mechanisms, like taking agricultural waste and creating, for example, bricks, fuel bricks that can be used instead of charcoal, but are better for indoor pollution and can be very cost effective. Or also, for example, taking these same agricultural waste and using it for fertilizer. So you can have actually a profitable business that creates a more nutritious outcome for food, and you're reducing deforestation and you're reducing carbon emissions at the same time. And I think young people in Africa are really excelling in showing their innovations in a lot of those ways. If you were to look at the emissions, the carbon emissions that are involved in the production globally of plastics, and you were to compare those emissions to the emissions from countries, the plastic emissions would be the 5th largest emitter of all countries in the world. So it's massive what it contributes in every step of the process. So from transportation of the raw materials to the manufacturing process, and then of course the whole process of treating waste. All of that creates carbon emissions that contribute to climate change. At the same time, we know that a lot of the, especially single-use plastics, are ending up in the oceans, ending up in our waterways. 8 million tons annually, which is about a garbage truck worth of plastic per minute into the oceans. Certainly the ban has reduced the amount of plastic bags that are consumed in Kenya, and that's phenomenal. So there's direct impacts of that into the environment, into waste streams. That's phenomenal. Kenya is also one of just over 60 countries that have joined the campaign for Clean Seas, which is a campaign that is focused on reducing the use and the production of non-essential plastics that can be avoided. One of the great benefits as well from a ban like this is how it raises awareness. So every time that you go for a walk in Karura Forest, since the ban that Kenya's had on single-use plastics in the national parks and forests, you're reminded. I'm reminded again that I as a consumer have a responsibility for the choices that I make, and that I'm empowered to make decisions that will either contribute to the problem, unsustainable consumption, or be part of the solutions. Every person who flies into Kenya and arrives by airplane will receive an announcement that Kenya is a plastic bag-free zone. You know, every single person who arrives here by plane will be reminded that they as a consumer have a responsibility and an obligation to contribute to the solution. And so that, just raising that awareness and that reminder, I think is extremely powerful. One of the big things that we can do in the UN Environment Program is to help amplify those ideas, to help provide space for conversations about where there's opportunities for partnerships to take something that's from an idea and to connect it to a much bigger scale. We serve member states in the UN, and so our role is to help support the ambitions of member states, but at the same time to help raise awareness with science-based information about the real essential steps that are needed in order to achieve goals like the Paris Agreement's goal.